Hi, my name is Miriam Money One, and it's my joy to tell you that Jesus has made such a difference in my life. My life is so different, so full of joy and gladness and peace and direction and purpose and meaning, far more than I could ever have imagined. I grew up in village India. My parents were missionaries, and I'm so glad they made choices to follow Jesus, even though they were just young and they had nothing. They gave up everything to go to India to tell the people in India about Jesus. And that's where I grew up. Went to a boarding school, which was my own personal difficulty because I learned to trust God in a very meaningful way without my parents around. And he became very real to me. But I remember as my parents would go out to the villages and they would tell the people about Jesus. They had like a film show or something. Not film, but like a film show. And I remember one time I went to my tent with my mom and I knelt down and I prayed and asked the Lord Jesus into my heart. But most of my growing up years, I followed him. I trusted him. I made a sincere desire to communicate with him, and I always felt his presence. I felt he was with me, and that made such a difference. Times when I was lonely, times when I felt misunderstood, times when I felt concerned or just didn't understand things. But he was with me. I remember one time when we came from India, come to the United States on furlough on one time, we went through the Holy Land. And as children usually have to do, they follow along with their parents. And I found myself in the Garden Tomb, and I couldn't understand why all these adults were making such a big deal about the Garden Tomb. It was nothing there. While I was standing in the Garden Tomb, and I declared, there's nothing here, it suddenly struck me, wow, that is the big deal. There's nothing here. There is nothing here. What happened to Jesus? Why isn't he here? And that was such an opener for me. I'd been to the Taj Mahal and I saw Shah Jahan's tomb there, and I saw the magnificence and the glory of it and all the inlaid work, and it was so fabulous. But here, the King of Glory, the King and the Creator of all universe, was not in his tomb. This is where they buried him, but he was not there. I have to say that was a transforming time for me, because I realized my God that I had been trusting even as a child, I realized he really, truly is alive. And if he's alive, he's there to help me. He's there to encourage me. He's there to talk to me. And I could read his word and he would communicate to me. And more than that, he could hear me and he could understand me. And I didn't always have the right words, but he could understand me. And that transformed my life. And that made such a huge difference to me when I came to the United States. I came here, went to school, finished my PhD, couldn't figure out what in the world we're going to do with our life. But here we had 4 little girls, and we just started opening our home. Wherever people were from, I understood the importance of home because I had missed my home. And we invited people into our home. I stopped counting at 115 countries. The people came to our home here in the middle of nowhere. This house isn't anywhere. It's really in the middle of nowhere, and yet God used this home to reach the world for Jesus. I found if I just give him what I have, he'll take it and he'll bless it like he did with the loaves and the fish. He'll just take it and bless it. And it's been a blessing to people all over the world. And I was so glad that my mom wrote about her story in a book, Wherever He Leads. It looks like it might be backwards to you. And then now just this last week, my daughter, Angeli, wrote a book on her life and how she's understood and come to understand the love of Jesus. And even through all the different hard times, God has just loved her. And all of the difficulty and pain has taken her back to the love of Jesus. So if you are enjoying this time of your life, staying home and pondering about life, oh gosh, we have a risen Christ. He's arisen. He is alive. He is with us. And he loves us. He profoundly loves us. And he's faithful from generation to generation. From my parents to us, Witchett and me, to our children and our grandchildren. And then their children. And I hope we live long enough to see them. But how amazing that this dear, wonderful God of ours He said, have I not told you, if you'll only believe, you'll see the glory of God. He said, I am the resurrection and life. He who believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And at that point, he raised Lazarus from the dead. And he didn't take it lightly. He understood that Lazarus was going to die, that was dead. And even at that point, a lot of kids like to memorize this verse, but it says Jesus wept. He enters our pain, enters our sorrow, but he is the resurrection and the life. And he can take those dead places in our hearts, in our lives that give us pain and distress, and when we turn it to him, he is the one who gives us new life, abundant life. And so I encourage you that he has called us to know him and to celebrate him and make him known to people who have never had this wonderful hope of Jesus.